Welcome to District 6330's December 9th Noon Zoom. Today's Noon Zoom presents Kirk Langford, District Chair of Public Relations, Sam Gowanlock of the Goderich Rotaract Club, and how they used social media to make a splash in their community. Marty Barda, President of the Rotary Club of Flushing, Michigan, and how they put a big plus in Polio Plus. Past District Governor Gay Ratcliffe will introduce our featured guest, Rotary International Presidential Nominee Jennifer Jones of the Rotary Club of Windsor-Roseland. And now, to kick off the December Noon Zoom, welcome to your screen, District 6330 Governor David Elliott.
Good morning and welcome everybody. Actually, good afternoon to our Noon Zoom, especially those who are joining us for the first time. December has different meaning for everyone. However, one common theme for the month is the celebration of life, hope for peace, and goodwill to everyone. Our guest speaker today, Rotary International President nominee Jennifer Jones's presentation on diversity, equity, and inclusion is also a great fit for the month. But first, I want to share a video our District Public Relations and Image Chair, Kirk Langford, did with Sam Gowanlock, Goderich Rotaract President, on how their club uses social media to raise the profile in their community.
Hi everyone, it's Kirk Langford, the District 6330 Public Image and Social Media Chair. I'm joined by Sam Club's PR, your club's public image, because you folks do a great job at the Rotaract Club of Goderich. To start off, tell me just a little bit in general about your club's public image and public relations.
So something that we find really important is trying to get that public outreach, because we are a small community, so it's a lot harder to reach out to people who are in the age bracket and have the time available to be part of Rotaract. So we thought that being on social media and having a strong social media presence would help attract new members and let the community know what we are doing.
So you mentioned that sounds like there's two main purposes. There's the purpose of attracting new members, and there's the purpose of engaging the community or letting them know what it is you're up to as a club. I want to talk a little bit more about the social media. I was scrolling through the social media before our call here, and one thing that I really like about it is that it's all very simple, sort of simplistic and straightforward. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you maintain that simplicity? Because I think as Rotarians, we want to put as much information as we can. We have a post and we want everybody to know all the details they might ever need to know about it. So how do you recommend that we, provide posts that are useful and informative, but not overwhelming?
So I, first of all, love to use the website canva.com for all of my graphics. It's got fantastic templates. And then our posts, usually we want to get the main ideas across, because we know that as people are scrolling through, the attention is very limited in what they're reading. And if they see a huge story, they're just going to keep scrolling. But if they have a couple sentences, they might take the time to read it.
I'd love to know what kind of posts or what style of posts do you find are the most popular? I don't know if you use, Facebook Insights very much, where you look at the actual reach and engagement per post, or just anecdotally, but what do you find to be your most popular posts or your most well-liked posts?
Something that we've just started, and I think that that's part of the reason why it's so popular, is our Member Mondays. So we have a picture of a member in the club, and then a little blurb that goes alongside it, where they tell us something about themselves and in relation to Rotaract. So maybe why they joined, or what their favorite experience has been with Rotaract, or something along those lines. And it's had lots of shares, and I think it adds that personal element. It's not just this is a club, this is a person in the club, so that person's family members want to share it and things like that. So it gets a lot more of an audience, and then it's also shared from person to person. So then some people who have never heard of Rotaract on someone else's page might see our page and then want to click it, for example.
Okay, yeah. I want to ask you a couple of practical questions now. For clubs that are maybe looking to get into social media, how much time would you say you and or your club's members spend on social media and public image in a given week, for example?
Quite often. So for scheduling posts about upcoming meetings and the member Mondays,
Yep.
I'll probably take a day in a weekend, or not a full day, but like I take a day in a weekend, and I will make all of the posts that I want for that month.
Perfect.
And
for that month. Okay.
Them. Yes. And so I use the scheduling tool in Facebook Pages, or I guess Business Suite now.
Yes.
And so I schedule them all. So I make them all on Canva really quickly, schedule them all for when I want them to appear, based on the times and days that seem to get the most reactions from our followers. And then when we have those meetings, then I do the follow-up post afterwards, because I usually take a screenshot or something like that. But that really doesn't take a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
If you put some time aside to plan ahead, it makes it a lot easier rather than going one piece at a time.
Yeah. My last question I have for you, Sam, if you were to give some advice to either a new club starting up on their social media and they're trying to get into it, or an existing club, but they want to, get into social media, they really want to take the plunge, what advice would you give them?
Taking it one step at a time. Like when I started, I made a sample calendar of a month of what I would want to post. And then I, searched up ideas and different things and looked at a lot of other Rotary and Rotaract Facebook pages on whether it was in our district or worldwide. I was looking at kind of what everybody else is doing and took ideas from that. And then I made a sample schedule of when things would be posted. And then I just started one at a time. So it kind of, for me, it felt better to do a big picture rather than just start with a post and then try to do another post. It just felt like I had accomplished a lot more, and I could see how it was going to turn out by the end of the month and what kind of posts we were going to see and stuff like that.
Great. It's great. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I've really appreciated, hearing about your social media. You guys have a wonderful social media presence. And so thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
An amazing experience.
Perfect. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. It's Kirk Langford, the Public Image and Social Media Chair. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us. So first, I want to take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about that video. I want to thank Sam Gowanlock for taking the time to speak with me a little while ago. She's a teacher, so unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us live, which is why we pre-recorded that chat that we had. If you want to see the full interview, it's about 15 minutes long. We do talk about more ideas that they're currently doing in their club. They're talking about some great initiatives on their social media and their public image. You can find that on our District 6330 YouTube channel. And there's also a link in that the short video, the 5-minute video. There's a link to the full video if you're interested. So quick thanks to Sam for that. To quickly summarize, in case you're looking for some quick takeaways from that, couple things. You've probably all heard of KISS, but the nice version is just keep it simple. We'll keep out the stupid part. So keep it simple. Less is more, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. So use images where you can. Recognize your members. Make it personal. People love a shout out. They love their name being mentioned. So don't be afraid to make it personal. It doesn't always have to be about Rotary as the bigger entity or the bigger organization. Remember, Rotary is made of 1.2 million members. So each and every one of those members is a special part of Rotary. Third, I want to talk about Canva for a quick second. As you saw, Tony Sheard in the chat mentioned that you can get it free, the professional version. You can get free as a member of Rotary, so you have to apply for that, but you can do it. And basically the point there is let templates do the work for you. You don't have to create everything from scratch. Let templates and sort of what's already been done do the work for you. Saves you a lot of time. And the last two things, use scheduling features to save you time. Facebook and Instagram and most social media platforms give you the ability to schedule posts into the future. So I might be writing it today, but I'm scheduling it to be sent or to be posted tomorrow or next week or the week after. Using those features will save you a lot of time when it comes to setting up posts for a week or a month in advance. And the last thing that Sam mentioned that I think is important is to make a plan. It doesn't have to be a master plan. It doesn't have to be the plan to take you from the beginning of the Rotary year to the end, but even looking out a couple of weeks or looking out a month in advance and saying, what do I want to accomplish over that time can help you organize your thoughts, which then helps you organize your posts. How many posts you have, what the nature of those posts are, all can help by taking a little bit of extra time to plan. So thank you again to Sam. That was some great advice. And I recommend that you all go to Facebook and Google or search for the Rotaract Club of Goderich page and like and follow their page so that you can also see what they're doing, some of the great things that they're doing on their page. Okay, next, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Marty Barda, who is president of the Rotary Club of Flushing over in Michigan, and she is going to talk to us about what her club did for their End Polio Now promotion. So Marty, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Kirk. I appreciate that introduction. I'm not used to getting introductions, so hope everyone can hear me. And thanks so much to David, too, for including me in this noon Zoom so that I can share a little bit with you about how our Rotary Club of Flushing celebrated World Polio Day. And for those of you who don't know where Flushing is, we are the westernmost club in our District 6330. So we're in Michigan on the western edge of our district. So as Kirk said, my name is Marty Barda, and I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Flushing. When our club first began, we've been meeting virtually since last March. So when our club began talking about how to celebrate World Polio Day, we knew we couldn't do it in a typical fashion that we have done before, where we've had chili cook-offs and barbecues and different things, any kind of an in-person gathering. So we came up with the idea to do an article review to highlight the work that Rotary has undertaken in this road to eradicate polio. So I put together an email on Saturday, October 24th, World Polio Day, and sent it out to our club members. In my email, I asked each member to take just a few minutes to read the articles that I had included the link on, and with the hope that this would bring them up to date on the final push towards the complete worldwide eradication of polio. The first article was entitled, "What is Polio?" And this article was found on the endpolio.org website. The article gave an overview of the disease, the partnership between Rotary International and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the facts about polio, the progression to end the disease since 1988, a couple of personal stories about how polio has affected individuals, the history of the disease, and the work that RI has undertaken to eradicate the disease. The progression of the disease showed a visual of how the extent of the disease prior to vaccination, and then moving forward to the eradication of the disease throughout the years. It was a very moving visual of how this disease has been eradicated. The history of the disease started in 1894, when the first case of polio was found in the United States in Vermont. And then it progressed through 2020, and the fact that Afghanistan and Pakistan are the last two countries that we know of that have polio. So that was the first article. The second article I asked our club members to read was entitled, "Major Achievement Focus of Rotary's World Polio Day Event." This was written by Ryan Highland, and it was also found at the endpolio.org website. This article highlighted the most recent developments in Africa, where polio has now been eradicated. I'm probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, but Dr. Tunji Funcho, who is the chair of Rotary's Nigeria Polio Plus Committee, and he's also a member of the Rotary Club of, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos State, Nigeria. He tells online viewers that the milestone couldn't have been reached without the efforts of Rotary members and leaders in Africa and around the world. Additionally, this article spoke to the process that RI and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have used to deliver vaccinations, and how that established process has been studied by the World Health Organization for the distribution of the upcoming coronavirus vaccination. The third article was the article at Rotary.org entitled, "African Region Declared Free of Wild Polio Virus." And this was also written by Ryan Highland on August 25th, 2020. This article not only identifies the partnership and the cooperation of several organizations to help eradicate polio, but also really reminds us that the fight's not over, that we need to continue to support RI, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have agreed to continue in order to keep the world free of polio. So also embedded in that article was a 2.5-minute video from our RI president, Holger Knock, and then Nigeria Polio Plus chair, Dr. Funcho. The final push of our club's World Polio Day was a link to the Rotary.org District 6330 End Polio Now donation page. We continued our plug for Polio Plus during November, which was Foundation Month, and continue to remind our members of the need for those donations. We've seen more people in our club donate, but our actual donation dollars, as of about a week and a half ago, the donation dollars were down, but the number of people who participated was up. I'm really confident, though, that as the year comes to an end, 2020, that we will see our members make their annual donations, and that will be coming up very soon. So that's kind of what we did in a non-traditional way to help celebrate World Polio Day. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take a look at those. I see that somebody was asking if we could get copies of my articles, and yes, I certainly can forward those. How about if I forward the links to David, and then David can pass those on?
First of all, Marty, I really appreciated all the suggestions for your polio plan. One of the things that always happens is we forget that North America was really under that umbrella as well, and people think it's like gone. So an amazing idea, and I hope many of us listening to you today will be able to borrow your articles and use them and send it forward. Thank you so much for presenting that today. Should I just continue on, admin?
Yes, please.
Okay. It is also my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Jennifer Jones. Jennifer and I were classmates in 07, 08, be learning how to be a district governor. And we've had a wonderful journey, the two of us. And I have to admit, 1 or 2 glasses of wine might have happened, but I am so proud of what she has done for our year, and I'm looking really forward to hearing what you have to say, Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Gay, and I am so glad to be on this noon Zoom with all of you in District 6330, and so many familiar faces, and such a warm welcome, and such an incredible start to your meeting. I want to dissect a whole bunch of things that I thought were brilliant, but first let me just thank Gay for the introduction. And yes, we did have a great journey becoming governors together, and it's hard to believe we had a little chit chat prior to all of us coming on to the call. It's hard to believe that many years has already gone by, and glad to see that we're both still engaged with our hearts and our heads and our hands in Rotary service. So really, really good to see you. I also want to recognize a very dear friend who's on the call, and that's past RI Director John Eberhard. We've had a lot of things that we've shared together, including the peace conference that we held here in Windsor, Ontario back in 2008, where John was one of the co-chairs of that event, along with one of his other director colleagues, Mike McCullough. And so always a treat to see you. Governor David, thank you very much for the very kind introduction, or rather invitation, I should say, to be here with all of your members. And today, like I said, so many great things. I loved the conversation between Kirk and Sam, and being able to see in real time the meaningful way that Rotaract and Rotary can intersect, and the cross mentorship opportunities that we have are so abundant. And that conversation, just talking about social media, the introduction of Canva, and the kind of way that you can schedule things, that's gold and stuff that I hope everyone takes back to your own clubs to be able to, amplify the way that you can put your voice out into the community. And Marty, I love that you highlighted what your club did for World Polio Day. And we had a record number of clubs that participated in World Polio Day this year. And our voice was loud around the world. Our live stream event attended by literally millions of people that were able to see it through social channels as well. And the kind of support that clubs like yours and those in your district has been immeasurable in helping us to keep our foot on the gas as we looked across the finish line with polio. Now today, I've been asked to talk with you about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but before I switch gears into that, I did want to just tell you a brief story to add to what Marty said, sort of maybe a little bit of a behind-the-scenes story that you might not have had a chance to hear. And it's with regard, and you said his name perfectly, Dr. Tunji Funsho. Now, this is a really cool story. About 5 or 6 years ago, we, Rotary International, approached Jeffrey Kluger from Time Magazine and asked him if they would do an article about Rotary and public health, and in particular polio. And Jeffrey, the editor-in-chief, came back to us and he said, why on earth would I do something like that? And so we had to educate him. We had to show to him what it was that Rotary started, how our 1.2 million members were galvanized behind this, and that along with our partners, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the WHO, the CDC, UNICEF, and Gavi now, the Vaccine Alliance, that we have been working tirelessly, and that the creation of the public health infrastructure that we initiated more than 30 years ago still exists in more than 70 countries. Now, we know that that's making a big dent in helping us to tackle COVID, and it will be something that really helps us to get immunizations out into the countries where that infrastructure still exists. But as we educated Jeffrey Kluger about this, he became and has become one of our fiercest advocates, so much so that he has spoken at our convention. He's been part of our polio live stream events, and this year, he was personally responsible for nominating Dr. Tunji, to all of his friends, to be one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world this year, standing among the shoulders of past recipients like Oprah Winfrey, the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Angela Merkel, and Tunji Funsho. Now, if you ask Tunji about this, he'll be the first one to say that he is, obviously very honored to have been recognized for his incredible work in eradicating polio. But he'll also be the first to tell you that his face is the face of the Rotary family. 1.2 million Rotarians, a couple 100,000 Rotaractors, hundreds of thousands of interactors and friends and supporters. That he is the face of all of us. Every one of us who has conducted a polio fundraiser and awareness campaign like Marty told us about, every one of us who's played a role in it, putting 2 drops into a child's mouth, has taken us just that much closer to crossing the finish line. And of course, we know we have made a promise, and we keep our promises. So I'm glad, Marty, that you were able to share that with us today, and I hope that that's a fun story that you might want to share with some of your club members at future meetings. So diversity and equity and inclusion is something that is incredibly important to our organization, and its words, and I'm going to use the acronym as I talk about this, DEI, throughout the conversation, just to make it a little bit easier. But this is something that we're starting to hear so much about in other corporations, other organizations, within government. It's a conversation that is not one with a quick fix. It is a decades-long conversation, and it's one that we are uniquely poised to be leaders in because of the diversity in our organization, because diversity is one of our core values. Now, I'm very excited to tell you that the Board of Directors of Rotary International, about 1.5 years ago, adopted a DEI statement and making this a priority. But a statement, it just wasn't enough. We needed to do more. And so this past summer, the RI Board approved the formation of a task force, a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. And it's being chaired by our own director from our home zone here, and that's Valerie Wafer. And she is going to chair this assembly of people who have now been recruited from across the globe to help us understand better how do we have the kinds of conversations that we need to in order to elevate our own level of vision to being the very best we can be at diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think one of the first things that we can all do is take an honest scan of our community, and most importantly, of our club, and look at, are we truly a reflection of what our community, how our community looks? Now, I can tell you that for the past 5, 6, 7 years, our international presidents have made diversity a priority, so much so that they've associated targets with increasing underrepresented populations in our organization, in particular, female members and young professionals under the age of 40. And, you know, I can tell you that over that 5-year window or so, we've really moved the needle in a very negligible way. So what do we need to do to actually move the needle? Now, one of the things that, and one of the ways I like to frame this, quite honestly, is that, you know, we do the scan of our clubs, but we're business people. We're business leaders in our community. And if you were to think about your own business, and you were to take a look at your business plan for the next 3 to 5 years, and you saw that you had a market share that was underperforming, you'd make course corrections, wouldn't you? And so as we look at the population of our globe, 50% of the global population, basically it splits down the middle, male, female. But in our organization, globally, 24% of our members are women. And so, you know, it isn't necessarily that we have to run after trying to get every woman in. We need to make sure that we get good members in, men and women. But we have an underperforming market share that we have an opportunity to take a look at and see how we can better reflect that within our clubs. Now, 24% is the global statistic, but in North America, particularly in our own area, that generally is more like about 35%. Now, we also know that in parts of the world, like the Caribbean, for example, they've basically, in many of those countries, achieved gender parity already. And so that's an important statistic for them, and they've been doing a lot of work on it. Now, members under the age of 40, again, a population where we've seen little growth. The Elevate Rotaract movement has been an incredible opportunity for us to more meaningfully engage younger professionals in our organization. And we know, just listening to Sam, and I know that there's a Rotaract club that came into the chat room a few minutes ago, the opportunity for us to recognize that Rotaract is now a membership type of Rotary is something that helps to bring them so much closer to us. Over the years, we've only ever actualized, if you can believe this, a transition from Rotaract to Rotary of 5%. How is it that we can have this population of people who understand Rotary, who get it, that it's part of their DNA, but then unfortunately, you know, have maybe a young family, go off to school, get a job, and aren't able to participate in their Rotaract club or transition into a Rotary club? And so we've got to do something to make that a closer alignment. And so the entire movement of Elevate Rotaract over the past couple of years has been fundamentally important to engaging Rotaractors in a much more meaningful way. And at the end of the day, whether it's a Rotaractor or a Rotarian, the number one thing I think we need to do is to ensure that we do take a good look at our clubs to see what it is that we're offering, and to make sure that the experience that we're providing is what people are looking for. We know from research that people join and people stay because of the service opportunities that we have to get our hands into something, and for fellowship and connectivity and connection. And so we need to make sure that we provide an authentic and intentional experience for our members. And that means that when someone comes to our club, you know, perhaps the best thing we can do is ask them what do they want from the experience, and then help deliver on what it is that they've requested. You know, we spend a lot of time telling clubs to do an exit interview when someone's leaving, when instead we really should be doing an entrance interview to find out what it is that they want, and then honor that. So we've done a lot of work. We kind of know the statistics. And one of the other things that I think from the area and the perspective of bringing younger members into Rotary, I think, and this is one of the ways I like to think of it, is, it's not necessarily a campaign to bring younger members in. I believe what we should be more focused on is young thinkers, people who think young. Have you ever met a 25-year-old who's old? Have you met an 86-year-old who's young? I think you know what I'm saying. We need people who are progressive in their thoughts, who are forward-thinking. And when we have that type of member in our club, it helps to make us grow, to flourish, to bloom. And so vibrant clubs are those that are taking a look forward, the kind of clubs that don't say, it's not the way we've always done it. So diversity, the final thought that I want to wrap up here with this topic, is that all of these different demographics that we're looking at, trying to include and be more inclusive in our organization. We know that we don't have a problem with attracting. We really have a problem with keeping people. Our numbers bear it out. More than 1.3 million have joined over the past decade, and we're still at 1.2. That means we've lost more than we've actually welcomed into our organization. And so we need to do a little bit of work about, like I said, what our clubs look like. And so the final thought is, in my estimation, it really is a conversation about diverse perspective. That's what's so unique to what we have as an organization, that we are able to solve the world's most pressing challenges because we see things in a unique way. And everyone has a different way of bringing a resolution to a problem to the table. Imagine if we were all bankers, or we were all lawyers, or we were all doctors. We would all look at things through one lens. But because we bring a very diverse perspective, it's what allows us to solve these pressing challenges. It's what makes us stand out. We are able to tackle things like polio because we aren't like government. We aren't political. We aren't religious. We are able to bring together people from every walk of life, every continent and culture, to be able to work together in harmony. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that I am so immensely proud of is how we have responded over the past 8 or 9 months since we all went into collective lockdown. That literally at a time when every man, woman, and child on our planet was facing this incredibly terrible virus and what it's meant. But one of the things we didn't have to do was to say to the family of Rotary that we need you to be people of action. Because you know what? You showed us that you already were. Jumping onto platforms like this to be able to talk and get together to make sure that we're looking out for our neighbors, our community, our family, our Rotary family, and making sure that no one's left behind, that no one's isolated, and no one is in great need. And that's perhaps one of the things that I think is most special right now, is the fact that we are taking time to reach out to those in our clubs to make sure that they're okay, trying to make sure that people are getting onto platforms like this, because right now, even though we have hope on the horizon, like Governor David told us at the beginning, we have hope on the horizon. It's still a few months or maybe several away. And so we need to make sure that we are all in this together, and that we're making sure that we walk arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, pulling everyone along with us, so that we all come out of this knowing that it was a difficult thing to go through, but perhaps we've been able to learn. Perhaps we're maybe better for it. Perhaps there are different ways to connect and to communicate that have now been found in a way to adapt, ability to adapt, that we never really knew possible. And so today, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for being leaders in our organization, for understanding that Rotary is a very special part of all of our DNA, and for understanding that service is something that is meaningful in your life. So thank you to each and every one of you for your gifts and for being members of Rotary International. Now, it's my opportunity to recognize 2 folks who are on the call today who are longtime friends of mine who actually live and reside in your district, but used to be here in District 6400, where I am, in Windsor, Ontario. And that's Nick and Charlie Torra. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to see them while I'm talking about them, but today is an opportunity. I hear a giggle.
Hi, we're here.
I can't see you, but I wish I could. Whoever's administering this, I'm not sure if you're able to
start your video.
Hold on, maybe we can.
We're just waiting for them to start.
there we are.
There we are. Golly.
There you are.
Can you see us, Jennifer?
I can. Yay! The magic of virtual platforms. Anyway, what a treat to be able to recognize the two of you today. And I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag on why I'm talking about recognizing them, and that's because today they are being recognized as major donors to the Rotary Foundation, and I could not be more proud to be on this call to just be able to reminisce a little bit about our friendship and your time in Rotary, and to see the two of you and to see you looking so great and healthy. And the North treats you well. I guess it's the colder weather. Maybe that's maybe that's an elixir that I need to sign up a little bit more for. But I've got to tell you that back in 1994 was when you joined Rotary, right, Nick?
Actually, 1982. My anniversary will be December 14th. 38 years, Jennifer.
That is incredible. And joined the Rotary Club of Windsor St. Clair, which was the club that my husband first joined. And I don't know if you guys were members there at the same time. I think he might have been.
We crossed paths for about a year before we moved up north, Jennifer.
Well, I have to tell you that the two of you, very well known as civic leaders in the city of Windsor, and that is a legacy that has gone on to every community that you have touched. I have read about all of the incredible work that you've done, not only in your club of Wyerton, but in the clubs in Florida where you happen to spend a little bit of time. And I couldn't be more proud to remember. I remember. I don't want to even give away the years of the time, but I remember seeing your faces, both of you, on billboards and all over town as incredible leaders in our community. And that was through your work, obviously, in real estate. But I always looked up to the two of you. I always looked at you as people who were such incredible leaders in our community that motivated someone like me to say, you know what, giving to our community in service is something that's important. And don't underestimate the value of who you have mentored unknowingly in your life through your actions. It's been incredible what you've been able to do. And I know that I'm speaking on behalf of many people who are listening who also feel the same way about the contributions that you have made. Now, today we're recognizing contributions that you've made to the foundation, but really the contributions you have made to your community and to your world are immeasurable. Absolutely immeasurable. And I know in reading one of the little documents that they sent me, and this is so cool, about your trip to Finland with the speech that you gave on youth exchange.
Yes.
Youth exchange. But how you got there is a story, an incredible story, and people need to hear this if they haven't. And that's the governors-elect, when district governors-elect, when they travel, what was to San Diego, to go and to be officially trained, regardless of where they came through the world, many of them would stop in Florida. And so Nick and Charlie would get together and help them with sort of an informal exchange and get them sort of with, getting over their jet lag and acclimatizing them to North America a little bit more. And it was on one of those trips that I know you met several governors-elect, but one from Finland, and then went on to go over and speak at their district conference. That is the power of Rotary and being a global citizen. I mean, that's, without even understanding or knowing it, we all sign up and we receive this incredible global passport. And I'm so glad that you've been able to utilize that and to have created friends across the globe. And so today, on behalf of the trustee chair of the Rotary Foundation, Ravi Ravindran, on behalf of our president, Holger Knack, both of the boards, more importantly, from myself, I have the opportunity to say thank you to the two of you.
Can I say a few words, Jennifer?
You can, after I'm done thanking you.
Well, you finish first then.
I only have a couple last things to say, and then of course you can. But to say thank you for making the Rotary Foundation a priority and for understanding that it's the economic engine that allows us, that gives us the ability, the opportunity to do good in the world. And so thank you to both of you for your kindness, your generosity. And Nick, Charlie, the floor is yours.
Well, Jennifer, first of all, thank you very much. And the Rotary world and our hometowns of Windsor are all very proud of you, Jennifer.
For sure.
Now, just a little, we some people write a check to become a major donor. We wrote a bunch of checks. We're on a fixed income, and to write a check of that amount in December of 2020, might not be that easy. But we started donating in 1987, and actually that was the year Charlie and I got married and built this place up north. So it was really a culmination of steady. Slow and steady wins the race, and that's why we're here today. Thank you.
And that's a great way for people to be able to do this.
Well, thank you to all of you. And like I said, it's an honor and a privilege to have been able to spend this time here with you and with your district and to recognize your incredible achievement. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Governor David, I think we might turn it back over to you.
Congratulations,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Love you.
Love you.
You started a new movement.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Chafee, the governor nominee for our district. Jennifer, thank you for that great presentation on diversity, equity, and inclusion. If we are going to change the culture of our Rotary clubs to grow Rotary, we must heed the advice of Abraham Lincoln, and that is to think anew, act anew. Jennifer, we look forward to your year as Rotary International President, and I'm personally looking forward to being one of your district governors and supporting and working with you during 2022-2023. Thank you again. I'll turn it over to Jim Swan to moderate the question and answer portion of our program.
Thank you, Mike. We have had a number of comments, Jennifer, that welcome you and recognize you as someone who's really going to be a tremendous leader and is a tremendous leader for Rotary. And one comment that recognized the 4-H element of the beginning of your presentation. We have one question that has come in from Elizabeth Jordan. In addition to imbalances between membership and community demographics for gender and age, my club also has a significant imbalance regarding race. Have you come across particular strategies clubs have used to shift priorities, structures, and traditions to be more broadly inclusive with respect to race?
That is a wonderful question, and thank you for asking it. And it is actually, what I will say is that one of the things that this new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force is doing right now is doing research globally. We're looking around different communities for different best practices to see where these kinds of conversations, where the success stories have happened, and where we can learn from them. And some of those conversations are going to be challenging, and we see throughout North America, even through the political landscape that we exist in right now, where things like Black Lives Matter and different movements that are going on across North America, that there is a need in particular in our area of the world to be more intentional about having these kinds of conversations and finding ways that clubs can be more inclusive and to reach out and to understand how to do that. Because sometimes it's just easy to ask someone who looks like us to join, as opposed to understanding that inclusivity is really so much more broad than that. And how do we engage in other organizations and outreach to other communities that are even within our own community to make sure that we're a reflection of that. And so there is no quick answer at this point. It's the beginning of a dialogue that I think that we're having within our own organization. I think some clubs may be well ahead of the curve and some are clearly behind the curve. But it is a conversation that I know I will be placing a lot of emphasis on in the coming years. So much so that diversity, equity, and inclusion will be one of my primary focuses in 22 and 23, to try to elevate this conversation so that we are talking about all demographics that need to be reflected in our organization, and not just through the North American lens, that through the global lens, because this is a conversation that may mean one thing in our part of the world, but it may be very different in another part of the world. You know, there can be another country where the most important conversation that they're going to have in Rotary for better diversity is about age. There are other countries in our organization where the most salient part of the conversation might be about gender or gender and age. In our area of the world, like many others, it's gender, age, sexual orientation, better diversity in different race and culture. There's a lot that we can do. But you know what? I think that the majority of folks who are on this call today are from somewhere within North America. And whether you call it the melting pot or the cultural mosaic, as we do in each of our individual countries, we know that we are better when we're a reflection of our communities at large. And so I know that that's not a concrete solution, but there are things that will be coming, tools that will be coming to Rotary clubs in the near future as the task force begins to identify those things. And I would think that you would start to probably see some things getting into the field early next year, and at least some more information about the direction the task force is heading. So in the meantime, it is a conversation to start within your own club, and I would encourage you on a district level or on a club level to start a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee and start the dialogue so that you can also be part of the solution and try to figure out ways that we can be better at doing all of this. So thank you for that very important question.
Jennifer, flexibility has been sort of shown through this pandemic. Does the drive for diversity require adjustments to the qualifications for membership, do you think? Or are there some things that we need to do individually to prepare ourselves for some changes?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And, you know, I think if we look at flexibility, and it's something that we've been talking about now for the past 4 or 5 years, that clubs have been given the ultimate flexibility to do Rotary the way that works best for them, that the rule book has become a little bit more pliable. But as we apply that toward membership and to whether we need to change, you know, how we bring members into our organization, I think quite candidly that we adhere to the ways that we've always done it. We're looking for the best and the brightest. We're looking for people who represent a diverse culture. And I don't think we want to make excuses. I think we need to elevate what it is that we expect out of our members, and to make sure that we're looking for people who represent the best from where they come. And so I don't think that means changing the level of expectation. We want business professionals. We want community leaders. And we have to be honest with ourselves to say that there are many people who look different than us who are in those positions that we need to have a conversation with and say, why don't you come and participate in what we're doing, and at least showcase, open up what it is that we do through service and through fellowship, the key drivers I talked about earlier, to a broader audience. I think we have an opportunity to do that without even changing any of the rule book about what it is that a member looks like. We want good members. We just need to be more intentional about them being more diverse.
Jennifer, this is perhaps a little bit personal, but you will be the first woman president of Rotary International. You've noted that we only have 24% women. You are an example of someone who has broken some of the barriers. What were some of the barriers, and how did you overcome them to get to the position you are?
That's a good question. So let me start by maybe going in reverse. I honestly have sat at the board table of the Rotary International Board as a member of the Board of Trustees, and I never sat there as a woman. I sat there as a Rotarian. And, you know, perhaps, and yes, there have been barriers that I've had to encounter and hurdles perhaps to step over along the way. But my colleagues right now in the environment that we're in, we look at each other as equals. And our voice resonates as Rotarians, not as a man or as a woman representative within our organization. Now, I don't want to be Pollyanna about that, to say that there aren't ways in which we, barriers that we still need to break down. I'll tell you a very quick little story about a club that I had in my home district when I was a governor nominee. And that club had not permitted women to join. And anyway, they had been a powerhouse club that dwindled down to about 8 or 9 over many years. And they were trying to do a bit of a resurgence in this club, and I was asked if I would go speak to them. And so it was a bit of a daunting thing to cross into territory where I knew that I wasn't maybe somebody who they were looking to welcome. But they had assistant governors in that area who said, you know what, Jen, come in and tell them a little bit about the face of Rotary today. And so I showed up, and when I walked in, the fellows who were AGs, I walked over, I knew them from conferences, gave them a big hug, and the president I knew gave him a hug, and did my talk. There was maybe, 15, 20 people at the table. And as I concluded, there was a gentleman down at the end of the table, Mr. Krieger, and he put up his hand, and he said, Mr. Krieger was in his 90s, he said, I would like to say something. And you could see literally everyone in the room do this. And so he stood up and he said, when they decided to let women into Rotary, I led the charge against it. Today, I want to rescind my position and I want a hug. And I went over, obviously, and I gave him a big hug. And for the few years that he was still with us, every time I saw him, he would shuffle up and I'd give him a great big hug. And I share that story because sometimes it's barriers like that we don't even recognize sometimes that it is just about sharing the human face of who we are and what we do, and opening the doors for others behind us, both men and women. And that's one of the things that I think is incredibly an incredible responsibility for all of us, is to be taking a look at our clubs, at our district, at our world, at our own vocations, at our businesses, in our families, and trying to bring others along with us. Good leaders give it away. That's what good leaders do. You don't have to lay claim to being the best leader. You want to lay claim to help give voice to others around you. And so, yes, I'd be lying to say that there weren't hurdles along the way. But I think that hurdles sometimes make us just run a little harder and jump a little higher. And that is, something that at this point in time, I want to be able to shine a light more on the conversation about diverse perspective than I do about the inequality in gender balance.
Well, Jennifer, it's been a pleasure to be able to pose some of these questions to you. And speaking of good leaders, we look forward to your leadership during your presidential year, and really thank you for taking part with us today. You are an inspiration, and I'm sure you will continue to be. David?
One more time to remember, don't mute myself. Thank you, Jim. And thank you again, Jennifer. I want to thank everybody there, though, today. Thank everybody who joined us. With your participation today, we have had over 600 guests join our 5 noon Zooms we've had this year, and I couldn't be more proud to have Jennifer with us today. And thanks, Jennifer, for giving it away. As we prepare for the holiday season, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Edmurmak are going to be a lot different this year. But as Rotarians, we can help others by sending an email or giving a call to those who are struggling a little bit more this year. Because maybe they've lost a loved one this year and weren't able to say goodbye. Or maybe they've got another person who's in a senior's home that they can't get to see. Or maybe they're feeling concerned for the family not being able to come to them, or maybe going to them because of being shut down, or just basically feeling alone. You as a Rotarian can help those people big time. Just pick up the phone, give them a call, and let them know that you love them. Happy Hanukkah, Eid Mubarak, Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, and happy holidays to everyone. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you.